Welcome to Manifest This. Today we're talking about when it all falls apart, is it actually falling into place? Is the universe rearranging things for you, or are we just making sense out of life's chaos? Hi, Jennifer. How are you doing this week?
Great, great, great.
Great, great, fantastic. So, looks like we're going to be doing some funny little detours with a few little insights and some hard truths from heartbreak to healing. Let's see where we can go today. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Let's dive in.
So let's dive into examples of major life detours that seem like they're absolutely horrible, but all of a sudden reveal themselves as not such a bad thing.
Okay, so I mean the idea that comes to mind first of all and foremost, and I've talked about it before, you can find it on my Instagram page. We'll post pictures if you want to see it, is um the day that my own tree crashed my own car. And you know, if it had started there, it would have been a scary major life disaster. But just 2 months prior to that, I had cursed my car. I had not wanted this car. I was so upset with this car that I said to the heavens, to God, I said, get rid of this thing. And it was a brand new car. But there were a variety of reasons that I didn't like this car. And,
Right.
first world problems, I didn't want this car. Well, 2 months later, God said, okay, along comes a storm in Toronto, a summer storm that took many trees down and hydro lines down. And one of the trees took out my car. And it was 2 months old and it was a write off. Like, was that a disaster? No, because I got a full check from the insurance company and I went and bought the car that I really wanted. So, what seemed terrible at first later revealed itself to be a stepping stone. So, if we could only remember in the moment when the actual disaster is happening, that it's actually setting you up for something you said you really wanted. I mean, there's a famous saying, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. If we can start to be calmer in those times of disaster and realize it's paving the way for something else, that's the stuff right there.
Well, here's the thing though, right? Human beings are naturally storytelling creatures. And oftentimes after the fact, we weave meaning into random or chaotic events, often to just soothe ourselves. So I sort of wonder, this is more of a narrative bias. We're really trying to just edit the messy middle out and turn it into something that makes a lot more sense later on. Is that what we're doing?
Can give me an example of what you think. I mean, I think I could probably figure it out, but what is narrative bias?
So let me do it this way then. Everybody knows I've told the story about breaking my arm, and in the middle of that arm break, it just seemed to be an absolute disaster. And you're healing, and you're miserable, and everything hurts, and there's a whole bunch of things you can't do. But as you come to the end of that and have a moment to reflect, you think, well, I worked out really hard prior to this arm injury. I've healed faster than most people expected. I've learned a few things along the way. That narrative bias is me telling myself a story in order to put meaning into why I broke my arm, in order to soothe myself because it was such a chaotic event.
Okay, I got you. So I told a story a few episodes ago about how I was feeling sorry for myself with a house that needed to be cleaned up. It was more than I could do. And I was starting to tell myself the story that I was going to have to do it myself. So it's the story we tell ourselves, right? And the story
Yeah.
can change instantly. Instantly. We
So
have the
are we
power to do that.
are we just creating our own plot line? And what
Yes.
you're suggesting is choose a plot line where you come out as the hero and things work out, as opposed to woe is me?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll give you another example. This week, I made a very firm decision. I've made them before, so maybe it won't work again, but I made a very firm decision to finally put some effort into losing a pile of weight I've put on over the past honeymoon 4 years. And I've done this before and I've signed up for things before, but this time I wrote a new script. And the script, and I can post it if anybody wants to see it. I can actually post, I chat GPT helped me do this. There's a lot that we could talk about here, but I asked chat to write me a new script about the new person I wanted to be, and what it gave me blew my mind. And so now I say to myself every morning, Jennifer, that door's closed. You're not that person anymore. This is the person you are now, that doesn't cave easily, that doesn't need those habits because they used to save you from something. You don't need those anymore. You're a different person. And now I'm telling myself a different story, and I'm already down 8 pounds. So I'm definitely doing the work. I haven't had a drop of alcohol in a week, but it's a lot easier because I'm telling myself a different story now than I told myself in the past.
One of the things I'm finding interesting in your language isn't that you are future talking, isn't I'm going to, or I'm telling myself I will be. What you're saying is I am. Is that
100
intentional?
Yeah, absolutely. And so anybody that knows anything about what this material we're discussing in this podcast will understand the power of I am. But it is I am. It's no longer I'm going to be. It's no longer I could be. It's no longer I wish to be. It is I am a woman of supreme self respect. I am a master of choice. I am a creator, not a caver. I am a leader of her emotions. And I am a builder of pride, moment by moment. The old self is already dust. It is done. It is done.
And how do you think you can move your mind from the past of who you were to the present of who you are rather than who you will be? What's that shift for you? What does that look like? Is it as simple as just telling yourself that? And then how do you get from the telling to the believing?
So there is definitely a simple timeline to this. We're going to talk about this a lot more. Um, there's about what I would call a 5 step timeline to any kind of change. And you can collapse the time. It doesn't need to take a long time. You say it's going to take a long time, it's going to take a long time. We're going to start with the identity, then we build the method, then we start speaking it softly, then we test it lightly, and then we go all in. And I'll give you another example of, of a time when this happened. We all know, I may have talked about this before, but we all know people that have seen some PETA, PETA, PETA video or ad about um, animal cruelty. And they'll see something, and in the moment, they say to themselves, I'm never eating meat again. And they don't. That's how fast we can change our life.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think you need a lot of prep work, and if you think you need a lot of time, and if you think you need a lot of tools, then guess what you think you will get.
So, why do you think as humans we sort of think we need all that prep time? Is it we're just trying to delay? We're not really committed to it. We don't think it's going to work. Where does that come from?
I think it's all those things. I think the biggest thing is when you say it's going to take time, or I'll do it tomorrow, or I don't have the resources right now, what you're saying is, I'm not ready for my manifestation.
Right.
I'm not ready right now for that to happen. Well, why not?
So we're really talking about, shaking things up. And you've said that that type of thing is a universal principle. And Joe Dispenza, who we quite enjoy, and you've introduced me to, talks about how your brain kind of freaks out when you're getting close to real change and it wants to pull you back to familiar patterns. So, really, what you're talking about is breaking old patterns.
Absolutely. And, we've talked about this before. Manifestation isn't just sitting with your hands in the prayer position chanting Om. That is part of it. But the other part is action. So, again, if we go back to my weight loss journey, I have done a lot of things over my lifetime when it comes to health and wellness and specifically weight loss. Now I have adopted a new eating pattern that I have in my head solidified and said, you're not that person anymore because you don't want that health anymore. And I've tied it to actual health, healing, and disease prevention. And I'm now identifying myself as someone that doesn't want disease that I know my old habits would give me. But it was that movement of identity shift into that new healthy, healing, and disease free person. It was adapting that story that is helping me make the tough decisions, which is actual action to get me to those results. I
Right.
used to think, I have had this goal in my vision board and in my journal for years. And just thinking that one day I would wake up the version of me I wanted to be. I missed the part about how much action is required. And
Mhm.
when you marry those two things together, you see yourself in your meditation as a different person, and then you actually walk the talk of what that person would do, be, feel, eat, see, smell, walk. That's manifestation.
Well, and I guess the neuroscience is really showing that transformation involves disrupting our neural pathways. So we're getting new habits and opportunities and some discomfort. So I think the science is backing it up. I think the challenge is the how, which you've described. How does one disrupt those neural pathways and live through the discomfort or the noise in our head that sometimes gets in the way of it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not a scientist, and I believed in the power of I am, or I believed in the power of having everything you wanted in your life before Joe Dispenza talked about the science backing of it.
Hmm.
I'm thrilled to know there's science backing this. I didn't need the science. I had the faith. And you either need the faith, you either have the faith or you need the wherewithal. But again, like I've talked about electricity, nobody understands how electricity, I don't know how it gets into my plug. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know how transformers work. I don't care. I know it works. And so I put my faith in the fact that if I plug my plug in, my hair dryer is going to dry my hair.
Yeah. Well, and that's the tension that we're going to have between the two of us, right? The believer versus the skeptic.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And listen, it's really hard to believe in something that you can't see.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe in something that you can't taste, touch, smell, hear, all those five senses. It's really hard. But as you practice, and that's what we've been talking about, as you practice these tiny little examples, you'll start to either go, well, okay, that's a one off, but let's see if you can do it again. Or you'll really start to believe that there is a power backing you that wants for your good so badly. It's like a parent. All a parent wants is for their child to know they love them, they would do anything for them, and that they want absolutely the best for them. That's what the universe wants for us.
Hmm. So, do you see that there's any key signs when you are being sort of repositioned into something different?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, so I'm not stealing his thunder. Go listen to his podcast, go download his YouTube videos. I do. He's amazing. But I'll tell you what I've experienced. I've experienced things like being in conversations that just don't fit me anymore. For example, gossip. I
Right.
used to be able to sit in a friend group and gossip like the rest of them. And now I just can't swallow it. I don't want to be in that room. I don't want to talk about that thing. And that's that idea that those familiar patterns, as you talk about, I don't want to be in that familiar pattern anymore, but I'm still there. I'm stuck, right? Because sometimes they're lifelong friendships, but you'll start to notice that the things that were so comforting to you for 50 years, they don't sit right anymore. And you can't put your finger on it, but it's breaking those old patterns. So
Do you
that's
think
one example.
do you think this is just signs of normal life transitions as we mature or change, or the ebb and flow of human relationships?
Well, maybe, but I know a lot of people that aren't probably feeling what I'm feeling in those groups,
Okay.
right? I'll give you another example. Yesterday, I was invited to a hot yoga, Reiki, aromatherapy, candle lit, dark room environment. And I'm like, sign me up. But there was this little voice in the back of my head that said, Jennifer, you hate hot yoga. You hate heat, right? So I said no. But then I started to think about all the other benefits of this, and it's so in line with, where I want to spend my time. I eventually emailed back and said, I just signed up. I'll meet you there. Well, I get to the session last night and it was beautiful. Like, knock your socks off, beautiful. Jay Bird, check it out in Toronto. It is a beautiful brand. It is a beautiful experience. They've done a beautiful job. However, I get into the room, I lie on my back, I've got my ball and my block and my aromatherapy ready, and I'm dying from the heat. And so for the next hour, I couldn't focus on getting into the zone. I was only focused on the fact that I was so hot and sweating and uncomfortable. It was a waste of money. So my mind was telling me, you don't want to do this, Jennifer. But I got into that back familiar pattern, which was you want to be with these friends. Don't be the one that doesn't go. You don't want to be that person. And I caved. And I said to them afterwards, I should have gone with my original no.
So, what do you think stopped you really from the original no?
The community, the communion, the fact that I did love, you know, 4 out of 5 topics in the title of the session. But I, and just, I'm even going to say this, like, peer pressure. It is so real, and it will
Right.
bring you back to those old haunts of the past. And it's hard to disrupt that.
Yeah, I can imagine. We all experience it at one time or another. We
We all
often talk
experience it.
about we often talk about peer pressure for kids and how much they have to cope with that type of stuff, but it even rolls into adulthood in many different ways as well.
Exactly. So you asked earlier, how do we change that? We write a new story. So back to my new mantra, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points: a woman of self respect, the master of choice, a creator, not a caver, a leader of my emotions, a builder of pride, a moment in moment by moment. I wrote a new mantra. How do I change myself? I've got to say that to myself every morning and every evening and in between if I want to start reprogramming that old software.
It's funny, in some respects, it almost sounds like our old software is sometimes an addiction, and it takes willpower or won't power or self love to move away from that addiction.
Yeah, it is. And you'll notice, like, I've had some people fall away from my life over time. I've grieved them. At first I thought, what have I done? Who am I that they don't want to hang out with me anymore? I mean, those are real life sad moments. But now I look at them and I'm able to go, I'm grateful for the time we had together. We had beautiful stories and beautiful experiences together, and they have fallen away. But now I can blow them away like a feather. I know that sounds kind of corny, but now I can blow them away and be happy about them. My mom always said, a reason, a season, a lifetime. People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Some people aren't meant to stick around forever. And sometimes that has to do with them, but oftentimes it also has to do with the fact that you're growing out of that relationship or that job or that routine. And it's uncomfortable at first. But I think we need to bless them and let them go and surrender into that, because you only have enough space for so much in your life. And we have to create space to let the good stuff in, the next step in, the stuff we say we want. We need space to let that in.
Absolutely. That's great, Jen. Now, let's do a little bit of an experiment before we leave everybody today. Do you have any ideas of what you want to do this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to go back quite a few steps here and encourage people this week to, we just talked about being grateful for a relationship that may not have worked out.
Hmm.
I think what I would like to suggest this week is really simple. I was chatting with someone last week and I gave them a compliment on their child that had done so well. And this particular mom responded and said, "Thanks, but blah, blah, blah." And I thought to myself, I just gave you a compliment and you deflected it with the word but. Thanks, but it wasn't me, or thanks, but I don't deserve it, or thanks, but whatever the but was doesn't matter. That but just butted out a whole bunch of other stuff. Because if you can't even accept a compliment, the universe will not send more for you to accept. You can't accept the simplest things, the simplest of things. You can't accept more. So this week, if somebody gives you a compliment, I want you to say thank you, full stop. I want you to say thank you, full stop. Nothing more, nothing more. Just thank you. And it's going to be hard for some people. We say, oh, thanks, but I bought it. It was on sale. Or thanks, that's great if I've got new makeup on. Or thanks, that's great, but it really wasn't me. It was somebody else. This week, I want you to practice saying thank you every time, everywhere, and nothing following it up. That's my exercise for the week.
Well, that sounds like an amazing exercise that each and every one of us can do without any, I was going to say without any difficulty, but I hear you. I think as self deprecating Canadians, we often find it very difficult to simply say thank you. So I know that that's something I'm going to practice this week and come back and see how it went. Thanks, Jennifer, for your time today. It was great to chat with you as always. For those of you who are interested, we drop a new podcast every Friday and love to hear from our listeners. If you're interested in reaching out, you can get to us at info@truthanddare.ca, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a great week.